Hello my peaches, welcome back to yet another creative sim video. I'm gonna have to just make that my permanent intro because that's literally all I do. As you guys can tell by the thumbnail and title, today I'm going to be creating some villainous sims. I have got this request quite a lot in the last year or so. I'm going to be turning Disney villains into sims today and trying to capture their wicked personalities. These sims are not going to look exactly like the characters. That's just not what I do here, okay? If you're new, you wouldn't know that, but if you are a returning peachy, then you know. My sims never look like the characters, okay? They just don't. They are created in my sim style, so I take, their personality and what they actually look like, and I also incorporate some fan art here and there to create, in my eyes, the perfect sim, okay? Not perfect, we're not gonna say that, but I think they look pretty good. If you guys like Disney villains and or the Sims, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and consider joining my channel or one of my Patreon tiers. After you get done watching the video, don't forget to comment down below your thoughts and which sim was your favorite today or which character is your favorite. So like I said before, I'm gonna be recreating 5 Disney villains today, and I'm gonna be starting with one of my more favorite and more recent characters, Mother Gothel from Tangled. Y'all, when Tangled came out, that was one of my favorite Disney movies for the longest. I think to this day, Tangled is still one of my favorite movies. I just love it so much. It's so beautiful. I just love it. And now I'm gonna go watch it later, okay? Mother Gothel is utterly vain. She's manipulative, and prior to Tangled, she was the only person who knew about the magical flower and that it could reverse her aging. When the flower is taken from her and ingested by the queen, she kidnaps the daughter, Rapunzel, who has the essence of the flower inside of her, and raises her as her own. 18 years later, Gothel is content with keeping Rapunzel as her fountain of youth, which is forced to change when Rapunzel decides that she wants to see the outside world. Mother Gothel doesn't mind getting her hands a little dirty, unlike the witch from the original fairy tale Rapunzel. She lives to take care of Rapunzel, but only to use her hair to stay young. So on the outside, Gothel appears to be a loving, overprotective mother, even though she cares more for Rapunzel's hair and its power than the girl itself. That made my heart hurt a little bit. Actually, when I saw that and somebody pointed that out, Mother Gothel is willing to do whatever it takes to keep Rapunzel in her possession, if you will, even if that means murdering someone. But I personally think that Mother Gothel is a baddie, okay? She's very beautiful in her young state. That doesn't take away from the fact that she's evil, but I like the way she looks young. I didn't do the best personally in recreating her as a sim. I feel like she looks even younger, the adult version of Mother Gothel is, and I feel like all of these sims should have been adults, but I literally didn't think about that until I was done, okay? So I don't want to hear nothing about it. I have been wanting to make Disney villains for the longest just because I knew that I had specific CC that would work perfectly for the Sims. I did have a choice between 2 different dresses for Mother Gothel, and I chose the one that was a little bit more intricate because the first one was just not as high quality as I remember, but I'm glad I chose the one I did. It looks, in my opinion, I think Mother Gothel and probably another sim that I made later, or another character, they were the 2 easiest characters that I made today. Well, actually, she wasn't the easiest because I did go back and edit a couple of these sims after I was done. How much coffee do y'all drink? This is my second cup and one of my cute Valentine's Day cups. I have a really bad habit of shopping for holiday themed items just so I can rotate them out when that holiday comes back up. I wouldn't say it's a bad habit because I started it pretty recently, within the last 3 years. But now that I started it, I want to incorporate it also into my desk setup, which if y'all haven't checked that out before, I have a new YouTube channel and TikTok called PeachyXP where I'm going to be posting my other gaming stuff, or other games, my gaming setup and things of that nature. So if you're interested, you can check that out. It'll be linked in the description. One of my videos actually went viral, y'all, and all for the wrong reasons. If you're not a part of the PC building community, you wouldn't know about this. I honestly barely knew about it before I started, but once I posted my PC build and decorated it, the boys were mad. I don't know what it was, but it was a bunch of 18 to 34-year-old men, I'm gonna say boys, commenting on my video because they're commenting, they know it all, not even making suggestions that would be helpful. They're telling me things that I should be doing with my PC that I bought with my money, which sounds really deranged, but I wouldn't put it past any of them to not be deranged. But I have 20,000 views on that video, and most of the comments are negative, and they're from males who were on their phone when they were commenting this, so they probably don't even have a PC. I would love to have more women in that part of my YouTube journey, if you will. The next sim I'm going to be creating today is going to be Ursula the the Sea Witch. So Ursula is the main antagonist in Disney's 1989 animated film, The Little Mermaid. She is a villainous sea witch who strikes deals with poor, unfortunate merfolk with the promise of making their dreams come true. Ursula's contracts, however, are covertly designed to advance her own ambitions and cause general misery. In the past, Ursula was a resident of King Triton's palace before being banished and exiled by the order of the king. Scorned, she has since vowed to exact vengeance by harnessing the power of the king's trident and installing herself as the ruler of all 7 seas. This is so off topic, but I remember seeing a little bit of the live action Little Mermaid. I still need to see it all the way through, but I remember when King Trident was talking to all his daughters from the 7 seas. He just got all the ladies in all different cities. Ursula is loosely based on the nameless sea witch from the original Hans Christian Andersen tale. Ursula's fervent confidence and theatricality have been met with critical praise and have influenced villains that followed. She has since featured prominently as a primary member of the Disney villains lineup. Ursula belongs to a species of sea creatures known as Cicalia. These Cicalias are half human, half octopus. She states through a monologue that she once lived in the royal palace of King Triton, the king of the underwater city of Atlantica. Why did I think it was Atlantis? She boasts that her previous life was lavish and included such spoils as fantastical feasts. Power-hungry and devilish, even in the past, Ursula garnered a disreputable reputation amongst underwater dwellers. She was widely and infamously known as the Sea Witch, an alias that she accepted in stride. Ursula's greed and use of dark magic led her to banishment. By orders of King Triton, Ursula was exiled from Atlantica and made her home in the remains of a leviathan lined with a garden of writhing polyps. These polyps were merfolk who had previously gone to Ursula to help but found themselves unable to fulfill their side of the bargain, leading Ursula to claim them as her own and adding them to her collection. Ursula laments her distaste for her living conditions despite having maintained all of her powerful black magic. From her secluded lair, she awaits the chance of her revenge on Triton and to become the queen of Atlantica by stealing the king's trident, an extremely powerful weapon that grants its user control over the seas and its spoils. Despite Ursula's irredeemable traits, she had a softer side as seen with her relationship with her eels. Ursula is aided by her 2 moray eels, Flotsam and Jetsam, whom she refers to as her babies or her poopsies. They are the only creatures to which she shows true affection despite barking at them at times when enraged. The only remorse she ever displayed was accidentally killing them with Triton's trident, immediately redirecting her anguish and rage toward Ariel for causing it in the first place. Ursula does have another form and her name is Vanessa. I did not make a Vanessa version. I didn't even make Ursula a mermaid or like merfolk. The custom content that I have doesn't work well with that, and I could try it in the future, but the only octopus or cicalia, if you will, tail that I had available, it didn't measure up to what I was hoping, unfortunately. Throughout the film, Ursula is driven by vengeance and a lust for power. Her prolonged vendetta against King Triton fueled her desire to usurp him in revenge for her banishment from the palace. Ursula's insatiable hunger for revenge and power finally culminate at the film's climax when she crowns herself ruler of the seas, her maniacal rage matched only by her increased size. Ursula was classy if not flamboyant and presents herself with confidence. She had an eye for high standards and decorum as evidenced by her belief that lurking in doorways is rude. Though she was very obese, she appeared to suffer dysmorphia, claiming to be wasted away and practically nothing and starving. Despite this, she exhibited vanity, regularly admiring herself and applying makeup and hair treatment. Though she had the power to alter her appearance, she chose her naturally curvaceous figure, apparently content and even going as far as to flaunt in a sultry manner. Like I just stated, Ursula is a plus size girly, okay? So I definitely wanted to make that very evident with the sim. I had one piece of CC in mind that I was like, this is the perfect piece of CC to bring Ursula to life. And as soon as I put it on her, I realized that it doesn't have any morphs. It just kind of has a single body shape, to which if you make the sim too big, it won't look right. All the tatas was showing, so I had to scratch that idea completely and give her another outfit. But I wasn't really satisfied with how she came out, so I did go back and change her some more. And I finally remembered, after looking through my CC a bajillion times, again, I have a corset that's called the Ursula corset or whatever it is. It's like a corset and gloves to match. So I put that on her and gave her a short skirt with some thigh-high boots to match. Though Ursula was highly intelligent and calculating, she was extremely arrogant and egotistical to the point of underestimating her opponents. I was really unsure of what hairstyle to give Ursula because I don't have have any hairs that kind of float up. I gave her a very short cut with finger waves, and I thought that was perfect for her. I was questioning her skin tone a little bit based off of the different pictures that I had available. I got all my pictures off of Pinterest, and like I said in the last video, I made like a mood board with all my inspo on there. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of Ursula, and I'm going to be moving on to the third sim. Today I'm going to be recreating Scar. Scar didn't come out how I thought. I had a lot of inspiration for Scar from a cosplay that I saw on TikTok, and I was just in awe, okay, because he looked beautiful. And I have some artwork as well of Scar. Freaking gorgeous, okay. He kind of looks more like Kovu. I'm not gonna lie, that might have been a picture of Kovu, but I liked how he looked in the picture, so I tried to recreate that, and I did a really poor job. I don't make a lot of male sims. I'll probably do a challenge very soon to create a male sim that I think is good, but I didn't like how he came out. So I would say Scar is one of my more favorite male villains from Disney. There aren't many Disney villains that are male, but I think Scar is one of my favorite. He did his brother dirty, okay? He did. But Scar is a very interesting character. Scar is the main antagonist in Disney's 1994 animated film The Lion King. As the younger and envious brother of Mufasa, second-born prince of the Pride Lands, Scar was next in line to assume the throne as king. However, his line in succession was replaced upon the birth of his nephew, Simba. This embittered Scar with jealousy and a sense of entitlement, prompting him to develop a radical plot to take over the kingdom with the aid of his hyena minions. As one of Disney's most infamous villains, made especially notorious for his success in murdering Mufasa, Scar is a primary member of the Disney villains franchise. According to dialogue in the original Lion King, Scar and his older brother Mufasa are descendants of royalty. Though the nature of their upbringing is left ambiguous, Scar noticeably resents Mufasa's position and reverence, believing himself to be the superior lion and deserving of the throne. Sidetrack, a National Geographic fact, if you will, if I remember correctly. Lions with darker manes are more often the leader of prides. The darker a lion's mane is, normally those lions are the leaders of prides or have some kind of territory. So if a lion has a dark mane, it's a sign of high testosterone. Lionesses find dark-maned lions much more attractive than golden-maned lions. Male lions don't have to fight for a female, unlike other big cats, as long as they have dark manes, and the darker the mane, the more testosterone. That is a beautiful lion. So Scar's namesake is derived from his most prominent physical trait, being the flesh wound over his left eye. That's one of the things I had a lot of trouble with depicting as a sim, because I don't have the exact Scar I was looking for, and I really wanted the eyebrows to match that, but it didn't exactly line up perfectly. While the origins of the Scar are never explained, director Rob Minskoff suggested that Mufasa was responsible for Scar's defacement. And I haven't seen the live action Mufasa, so maybe that movie will explain why or how Scar got his scar. But Kovu also got a scar from Zara, what was her name? His mother. He got a scar from his mother, smacking the crap out of him. Despite Scar's blatant disrespect for Mufasa, for which he is disliked in the King's Majorum, Scar remains a resident of the Pride Lands, dwelling in the shadowy undersurfaces of Pride Rock and isolating himself from his brother and the lionesses. Scar's only form of companionship appears to be the hyenas, whom he once deemed his friends. Despite this, Scar repeatedly takes advantage of the hyenas' desperation and vulnerability to coerce them into carrying out his biddings. Scar seems to possess somewhat of an inferiority complex, as evidenced by his sad resignation of the fact that he was passed over in the gene pool regarding brute strength. At the same time, however, Scar is egotistical and prides himself on his intelligence, saying,
"Well, as far as brains go, I got the lion's share,"
and is somewhat of a narcissist, the latter trait being especially prevalent when plotting the murder of Mufasa after the hyenas failed at slaughtering Simba at the elephant graveyard. He has some peculiar quirks of which he is aware, as when Simba affectionately states, "You're so weird," Scar tells Simba, "You have no idea." Scar is heavily sarcastic, frequently replying to attempts at conversation with sarcasm and subtle insults. After taking over Pride Rock, Scar's overall demeanor takes a turn for the worse, becoming somewhat deluded, if not in self-denial, and believing that he is still a logical ruler despite clear evidence on the contrary. Even when he is above Mufasa, having betrayed, murdered, and stolen the throne from him, he remains sensitive to his brother's mention. This indicates that Scar suffers from a low self-esteem. Even in a position of power, he remains vulnerable to doubts of indecision and insecurity, as he is unable to accept criticism and is too stubborn to take advice from his advisors. Scar is also a hypocrite, as he begs Simba to spare his life due to their family ties, despite the fact that he killed his own brother. I also wanted to give Scar more of a lion look, kind of humanoid lion, but I decided against giving him the digitigrade legs to go with his tail. I thought the tail fit him too much to skip out on. Also, I wasn't sure what clothes to put on him, so I just gave him some shorts, some kind of fantasy looking shorts by Dan Sam's Fantasy. Also wanted to mention that the tail is by Stranger Grapefruit. I really love their fantasy CC. They're consistent as far as their quality for fantasy content, and I absolutely love them. I'm glad I discovered them. So next I'm going to be recreating the Evil Queen. The Evil Queen is the main antagonist in Disney's 1937 animated film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and is the first Disney villain in the Disney animated features canon. Determined to remain the fairest one of all, the queen becomes insanely jealous of her stepdaughter Snow White, the only one whose beauty surpasses her own. She eventually disguises herself as an old peddler to tempt Snow White into eating a poisoned apple in a final attempt to do away with her only unknowing rival. So her name was given as Queen Grimhilde in some old publicity material and comics, but is seldom acknowledged by the Walt Disney Company. The Twisted Tale books gave her the name Queen Ingrid. She's sometimes referred to as the Wicked Queen, while theme parks sometimes refer to her as the Snow Queen, not to be confused with Queen Elsa. The witch is sometimes referred to as Old Hag or Peddler after drinking the potion of Peddler's Disguise. The Evil Queen is generally regarded as one of the most iconic and menacing villains in cinematic history, once being voted the 10th greatest movie villain of all time by the American Film Institute. Additionally, she is one of the most prominent members of the Disney villains lineup. From the outside, the queen appears to be regal and sophisticated, but in reality, this collective facade hides an extremely ruthless and obsessive person who wants nothing more than to be the fairest one of all. The queen has an extreme vanity that made her utterly intolerant of rivals, and her jealousy of Snow White's superior beauty further fuels her murderous insanity. It eventually leads the queen to transform herself into a hideous hag and conjure a poison of the sleeping death to dispose of Snow White, also demonstrating the full extent of her determination and desperation to achieve her goals. Being solely focused on the idea of becoming the most beautiful woman in the kingdom, the queen does not appear to be significantly involved in its governing, although the skeletal remains of prisoners in her dungeon point to her being a cold-hearted and merciless ruler. Her nature as such is apparently well known throughout her kingdom, as evidenced by a horrified conversation between the seven dwarfs when they found out that Snow White was related to her. The queen also has a very strong thirst for blood and violence, with killing being her main and only way to get rid of those who cross her. Owing to her royal status and refined demeanor, the queen rarely shows any vivid emotions, even less so smiling. The closest she ever gives to a smile is a vicious and menacing grin as she prepares a potion for a peddler's disguise. After her transformation into the witch, the queen retains her core personality traits, such as vanity and unstable jealousy of Snow White. However, partly due to the effects of the potion, she becomes more outwardly maniacal and unhinged, constantly cackling insanely, as well as once trying to play an extremely cruel joke on her pet raven by making it seem as though she wanted it to eat the poison apple. And despite her insanity, she was extremely intelligent and calculating, wanting to ensure that she does not overlook anything in order to make her plans an absolute success. She was also delusional, as shortly after poisoning Snow White, the witch declared herself the most fair in the land, despite her current ugliness. Despite her cunning, the witch herself made fatal mistakes which completely ruined her plans and brought her to her ultimate demise. I knew I wanted to give her a really curvaceous look. I forgot to change her body whatsoever, so I had to go back and do that. I am hopefully going to be doing a giveaway for the 3 packs that are coming out very soon, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and leave a like below. Also leave which pack you would like to win, which kit. I had a lot of inspiration for the Evil Queen, and I think she came out pretty high on my list of the characters that I made today. The dress I used is from Sims. It's a Max's creation. The dress comes from the Vampires pack, and I think it fits her color scheme, or her color palette, and her aesthetic. I think the hair that I gave her is very regal and sleek. Looks perfect for this sim. Now, last but not least, I'm going to be recreating a sim inspired by Kella Deville. I literally just realized that Cruella is kind of like cruel, and it's like devil. But I love 101 Dalmatian, okay? I'm not really too much into the live action remakes of Cruella Deville, but I do like the 101 Dalmatian series or movies. So fun, so cool. I just like the way Dalmatian look, okay? Cruella Deville is a famously wealthy, fashion-obsessed heiress who wishes to use the skins of 99 Dalmatian puppies for a fur coat. She remains recognizable recognizable image in popular culture as the primary member of the Disney villains franchise. Cruella is one of the most iconic and well-known Disney villains. She is remembered for her unique name, extravagance, and obsession for practically worshipping fur. As mentioned earlier, Cruella is very fashionable and chic. She dresses only in fur, which she apparently lives for. However, as her name might suggest, she's also extremely cruel, ruthless, manipulative, cunning, and vile. Oh, vile. Cruel and vile, not devil. Well, same thing. Cruel devil. Cruel, vile devil. Beyond her glamour is a murderous psychopath who is willing to kill and skin 99 puppies just to create her own spotted fur coat. And when the Radcliffes wouldn't sell, she resorted to stealing them. However, unlike villains such as Scar, Cruella is not much of a schemer who carefully plans out their plans. She has been shown to be quite reckless. She appears to act on impulse. Cruella shows a complete lack of manners, being rude and possibly even arrogant. And according to Anita, this trait was passed on when she was young at school. Cruella is shown to be extremely obnoxious, detestable, prejudicial. So she demands her 99 puppy Dalmatians without saying please. Cruella could also be considered a narcissist. She's described as a devil woman by the Dalmatians and is physically frightening, which was shown by the lyrics of Kella Deville. Cruella is short-tempered. She has been shown to be easily enraged. Her henchmen, Horace and Jasper, appear to be the cause of much of her frustration. At the end of the film is when Cruella has a complete and murderous breakdown. She appears to be abusive, defamatory, and argumentative toward her minions Jasper and Horace. Cruella is cold-hearted and unsympathetic, so she despises dogs, describing them as beasts, and shows very little concern of their lives. She also appears to be an unpleasant sadist, taking great delight in the thought of killing the puppies in the most brutal ways. That is sick. It's not until the end Cruella reveals her true personality, a violent, careless, murderous, destructive, and downright evil psychopath. After the Dalmatians escape, she becomes nearly insane, so she goes on a rampage trying to retrieve the dogs, but accidentally crashes the car she was driving. So Cruella is known to be mean-spirited and rude, frequently barging into other people's homes unannounced and openly disrespecting others. She adores attention, but looks down on others, showing no empathy or concern for anyone's well-being. She's also greedy and selfish, and adores high fashion and art. So right from the beginning, I absolutely wanted to make Cruella Deville with vitiligo. I think it would be pretty cool to have a character kind of represented in that way, just because if she's already obsessed with herself, she would be more obsessed with herself if she also had spots, if you will. I definitely wanted to give her a split dye or kind of bulky hair dye color. I wanted to give her more of that kind of 20s look with the long cigarette thing, so I did give her that. I found the coat really early on and I made sure to take a screenshot of it so that I could remember exactly where it was so that I could recreate Cruella Deville. I did actually forget to give her some vitiligo on her face, I believe, so I'll go back and do that before I upload these sims, as well as I did include some vitiligo white eyebrow. Like, if you're not aware, people with vitiligo can also have white patches in their hair and their eyebrows and their eyelashes. If you made it to the end of the video, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I want to quickly thank my patrons and my YouTube members for their continuous love and support. I am so grateful for you guys' support. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Help YouTube push out my video to new people and to more of my irregular viewers so that I can continue to bring more content to you guys. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!